again, Daniel D, ventriloquist here, and we've talked already about the various aspects of ventriloquism. We've talked about how to actually speak, we've talked about puppets, we've talked about interaction with puppets, we've talked about the puppet's interaction with the audience, we've talked about differing the puppet's voice to your own voice, so there's a contrast there, so it's obvious who's speaking. We've talked about using multiple characters, but now we need to start to get down to the real key, which is how to speak without moving your mouth. And this is a key, obviously the key technical skill, but it's nothing to be afraid of. I taught myself completely. I had a DVD at one time which suddenly decided not to work after I taught myself. I talked to other ventriloquists and we swapped ideas, but essentially I taught myself, so that means that you can teach yourself too. Now the key to speaking without moving your mouth is very simple indeed. Or is it? Well, most letters in the alphabet are quite easy to say without using your lips, because that's what we do. Well, that's the problem that we've got, that our lips are used to form some letters, particularly the plosive letters, the P's and the B's, and other letters as well, like the F, the V, and the W. The W sound is actually very difficult to say, and actually the hardest letter, I think, to say. So let's have a think about some of the letters that are easy to say. Oh, also, there's a little difficulty, a little sticking area that I had when I was first starting to perform and first writing scripts. When you have two letters together, especially with a plosive like a P and another letter like R, that can be very difficult to say because of the way your tongue moves in your mouth. And I'll let you into a secret. Actually, for quite a while, I changed words in my own scripts to avoid those difficult words until I was more confident, until I found a way to pronounce those letter combinations. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But as you practice, as you start to develop your own skills, you will see that actually you will develop your own ways of doing things. Ventriloquism, I think you'll find, is one of those things, one of those skill sets where there are certain ways of doing things, certain things that you have to do, but there are other ways that you can develop around your own physiology, your own mouth shape, your own personality, your own character, to make them work for you. So learn the basics and then adapt them to your skill set, your physiology. And nobody, when you're performing, it certainly never happened to me, and other ventriloquists out there, you might disagree, but it's never happened to me that somebody has come up to me after a show and said, well, I didn't really like the way that you pronounce that word. I think you can do better at that, because people are impressed by the fact that you're actually doing it. Well, let me just tell you a story. People often ask how I got into ventriloquism, and it's quite a funny story. Well, I hope it's quite a funny story, or an interesting story, maybe just interesting. But I had been involved in puppetry for a long time. I'd done lots of puppet theatre work. I'd performed lots of musical numbers in teams and solo. I'd used puppets to mime things. And then when I got married, we got married abroad. And then when we came back to England, we had a big reception, a big get-together with all our friends. Now, as the groom, of course, I was expected to do a speech. And I have to say that groom's speeches can be rather boring. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. I'm a ventriloquist. I'm a puppeteer. I have to use a puppet to do my groom's speech. What am I going to do that they won't be expecting, that my wife wouldn't be expecting? And I decided to secretly teach myself vent. And so I did. And so the first time that I ever performed in public was at my own wedding. And what was funny was that I actually borrowed a female puppet, because I didn't have one myself at that time. I borrowed a friend's female puppet, and we had a conversation, and then then we sang a song together, "Let There Be Love," Nat King Cole, which I still sing actually today, well, as a duet. And what was funny was that my puppet, even then, started to ad lib, and it really made me laugh. And the audience, of course, never forgot that day. I'll just tell you, actually, she was standing next to me on her stand, and I was wearing an Indian costume, which, of course, to a lay person like my puppet character might look like pajamas. And I'd rehearsed what I was going to say to her or with her to the audience, and we carried on. I brought her in, and everybody smiled and laughed and was very polite, and we started talking to each other. And I just looked at her and I said, I feel really fortunate, because it's not every day you get to do a speech at your own wedding. And she just looked at me and said, in your pajamas. And everybody laughed, including me, because I wasn't expecting her to say that. And I thought, blimey, we can do something with this. This works. And so that's the first time that I ever did it. And it was a nice thing to do, because I had a lot of encouraging comments, a lot of positive comments. And I thought, yeah, I can do this. I'm going to develop it. I'm going to develop my skills. It took me about a month, I think, to learn those initial basic skills. And here's my first tip to you. And I've said it in the introduction, but get a mirror, find a mirror for yourself. I used a big full-length mirror, and practice in front of the mirror alone. I've got to say, you feel a right idiot, but it's the best way to do it. And even now, I will still use a mirror to practice in front of, because if you're comfortable with what you're doing, you're comfortable with the way your mouth's operating, you're comfortable with your interaction with your puppet, then it gives you the confidence to move on and work on your skills. So let's get started.